This week's project is pouring these giant patio slab additions. This is the biggest concrete project I've ever done, and I'm not a professional. Welcome to the lab today. Are you good? Yeah. All right. Good job, bud. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Mike with Project Dad Life, and this week's project is going to be extending these concrete patio porches for a future wraparound addition. Now, I'm not a professional, but I love doing DIY projects and saving money, so follow along this week and I'll show you exactly how I'm going to tackle this huge project. Make sure you like and subscribe. Now let's get started. The first thing we're doing is the grade. We're going to get this set right and get any organic material raked out from beside the house and make sure that we have a future spot for the concrete that is mainly just dirt. I'm going to remove these temporary steps and blocks I had in front of the door and continue grading on this side since we are going to pour the 3 separate slabs. One thing to remember, concrete is liquid, so as long as the top of our concrete frames are square or level exactly where you want them, the underside does not matter as much. Dips, humps, or holes in the dirt will get filled in with the concrete. Alright, the grading is done and it's pretty close, so now I'm going to cut some ground spikes out of a 2x3. Just cut some 45-degree angles on this, make them about 10 inches long. We'll start hammering those into the ground, pulling some strings to make sure everything is square and straight, and then we'll start framing this up for the concrete.
Let's go to...
Let's get to work.
Actually, let's just do this side now.
Like I said, I'm no professional, so I just simply use one point of reference for my height on this concrete form. The concrete forms we're going to make are just a simple 2x4 square box. It's super simple, you really don't have to overthink it. We have the existing patio right there behind me on the house, so I just reference from there. I set my board that exact height and I ran it out the length I needed, and then I made sure it was level and added a little bit of drop, maybe like 1/8 of an inch per foot, just so the water can run off.
4 feet long.
Perfect, dude. After my project foreman inspected and approved, we were on to finish the rest of the boxes. Now we're getting into the tricky part of this project because we are going to have 2 different height slabs we're pouring. The front section of the porch that we're adding is going to be the height of the original porch. That will eventually be brick pavers from side to side of the house. The new slab on the side is going to be 1 inch below the interior slab height, and it'll just be a slick concrete all the way to the back door. So after the pavers are added to the front, it will eventually be the same height. So that being said, these next 2 slabs or concrete forms that we're making will be the height of that center slab that's already existing on the side of the house. So again, I'm using the reference point that was already there for me. It made my job a lot easier. I'm just going to make sure it's level, go 10 feet off the house, and then we're tying in again to another reference point that's already there with the original slab. Now I'm just going to secure the end of the box, or pretty much close it up, and I will raise or lower this corner as needed to make sure I have the appropriate drop. And then this is the second pad I'm about to start. So this second pad will connect with our laundry room door and connect back to the pad that was left from the builders. So almost done, and then we still have to backfill. Like I said, we want to make sure we have about 4 inches of depth of concrete, mainly because concrete is so expensive right now. Pad 2, engage. This form will go down the exact same way. I'm going to reference it from the house next to the door back behind me, and then I'm going to square it up with the existing slab that's already there, cut my spikes, drive them home, and then I will raise the end to make sure I have enough drop for water. The frames for the concrete are finished, and we've double checked all our levels and measurements and elevation. All that stuff is perfect. And we're gonna go back and we're gonna measure and mark where our future porch posts will be for our roof. We're gonna dig those out with the post hole diggers, get them a little bit deeper. I'm going for maybe 12 inches, about 12 inches on each future post landing. And then we're gonna sprinkle some dirt back in just to make sure we have that perfect height for the concrete all the way through. Our porch posts are built on 8-foot centers, so I'm going to run my tape down my concrete forms and mark every 8 feet, and that's where I will dig for the column footer. My wife volunteered to dig some holes for me, and I was definitely thankful. Tell you, baby. All done, man.
Gosh, how do you do these so fast?
Good job. I wanted to prevent any blowout, so I took some dirt and I backfilled the concrete forms and covered up the holes that were exposed below the 2x4s. Now all the forms are complete and we are ready for concrete. Good morning, it is concrete day. We're doing our final prep work. Since we're pouring it right over dirt, we're gonna wet the dirt just a little bit. That way it doesn't soak up a lot of the moisture from the concrete. We got all our tools ready. I rented the bull float, and then we have a rake, a shovel, we got our rubber boots. We have some hand trials, we have some finishing trials. We have a broom to rub the patio side, that way we can get that broom finish, and then the rest will be smooth. I think we have everything. Now concrete should be here any minute. Babe, you ready?
Ready?
I got my 2 employees, my 2 helpers. Walter, you ready?
Yeah.
Ready for concrete?
Yep.
All right. Now we wait. So my dad showed up last minute, which was a huge help. So once the concrete started going down the ramp, it started coming pretty quick. Luckily, the driver was able to move the ramp left and right, forward and back, and almost filled up the whole concrete form from the driver's seat of the truck. Now we're using a long 2x4 to screed the concrete. This is what the top of the forms are for. You pretty much slide the 2x4 on top of the forms while giving it a little shaking vibration motion, and it will set the concrete to the correct elevation. And this is when I realized that I should have added a grade spike in the middle of this slab. This section of slab was 18 feet by 10 feet, and the 2x4 we had was 12 feet long. So I had to kind of freehand it and hover it in the middle. The biggest slab we had to pour is complete, and we kind of figured out what we were doing, so we're on to the next 2 smaller slabs. These went way smoother. On to the last slab, and we finally picked up a good rhythm. The biggest piece of advice I could give at this point is you definitely need 3 people. 1 person on each end of the screed board pushing and pulling, and then 1 person with a rake or a shovel adding or taking away concrete as you're drawing it back. All the concrete is poured at this point, and now we are going to take our hand trowels and just go around to the areas we can reach and kind of fine tune it a little bit. Press the sides of the boards down and make sure that our edges are somewhat clean. Now we're going to use the bull float that we rented from Home Depot. We're going to run this back and forth just to make sure that we get the surface level and everything packed down in there. You can slowly start seeing all the rocks sinking to the bottom, and you'll see some of that moisture start rising up with the float. These are actually really easy to use. As you can see, we think ours was damaged because it's leaving a pretty good trail on just the right side. And although intimidating, it was actually pretty easy to operate. Now I'm using my mini sledge and I'm just going around the concrete forms and hitting the sides. This just helps release the air bubbles and let the rocks drop down to the bottom. Then back on the finishing trowel, and I'm just going to go around the edges and make sure I have everything clean and tied up and flush. My main concern here is making sure that I have a slope away from the house going out to the drop in the concrete form. Shortly after that, I noticed the concrete almost instantly dried up on me and was getting extremely hard. So at this point, I kind of switched gears in just like survival mode and started running around like a wild man on each of the patio sections and making sure that I had the edges and the most visible parts correct. I grabbed the bull float one more time just to kind of skim it over. It worked out a little bit, getting it a little smoother than it was, but I think I managed to salvage most of it. At this point, we're just trying to salvage everything we can because the concrete is drying super fast. So I grab a shop broom and start broom finishing the front slab. The wife grabs the edge trowel and she starts going around and cutting all the corners that she can. But again, it's already dry at this point, so we're just kind of salvaging it and doing what we can. We were able to finish about 80% of all slabs. The biggest section is the center of this large slab here we didn't get to. Of course, we got the handprints in there from the youngest. And we're really proud of our work and how it came out. We really love it. Did I mention we have dogs? Within a couple days, they covered it with mud. So we're going to pull the form boards off now, and I'm just going to use a sledgehammer, give them all a little bump just to make sure they're not sticking, pull all my screws out of my ground spikes, and then that way I can hopefully reuse most of these 2x4s. They all came up super easy, and I was really impressed with how these sides or the edges of these slabs came out. I didn't see any air pockets, any rocks visible, nothing. They are super smooth. The one part of the project that I wasn't 100% on was separating the slab elevations between this front slab here and the middle slab. The only thing I could come up with was use a 2x6 as shown here and then try and forcefully get it off or broken up later down the road. That might be something that is stuck in there for now, and I'm going to have to go back with a multi-tool and just cut it out. Even after cutting out, remember that this front portion of the slab is going to be brick pavers and brought up to the same elevation as the middle slab. So once it's covered up, none the wiser. I don't think anyone will ever know it was there. All the edges came out perfect. Here's a view of the large slab and the low section in the center from where I freehanded the screed board. Next time, definitely going to use a grade spike. Now to clean up and get rid of all this mud. Now I'm going to use a tractor to back drag most of the dirt that I pulled out originally, put it back in its place, get the edges of the concrete backfilled, tamped in, get everything raked in nice, and get most of the red dirt covered up so the slab is somewhat dog proof. It's not quite grass season yet, but I figured I would give it a shot, throw some seed out, run it back in with the tractor, and then cover it with some spent hay that we have from the cows. Another project complete. Even though it's going to take us a couple months to do the roof addition, it is going to be so nice having these concrete slabs here outside the doors for mud control. Now let's break down the total cost on this project. This project was definitely more labor involved. We already had a lot of the hand tools, so there was really just 3 items that we purchased. The first item was lumber. We used a combination of 2x4s and 2x6s, totaling $55. The second item was the hardware. We bought 1 box of screws, 2.5-inch sheetrock screws, and they totaled $8. The last item was the concrete. We used a total of 5.5 yards and spent a total of $1,600 for that concrete. That was $225 a yard plus a ton of additional fees. The grand total of this project came right in at $1,663. That completes another project. Thank you guys for watching. If you want to support the channel, hit the notification bell, the thumbs up, and subscribe. We'd love to have you along. Stay tuned next week for a ton more home, shop, or outdoor DIY projects.